Okay, hello, welcome to Osquery office hours. Here we are in late March, and Brian, welcome to our regular meeting. For announcements, Osquery 5.22.1 went to stable, so thank you everyone who had contributed and had tested that. So another stable release out the door. Any other announcements? Okay. Next section of the meeting is sort of an open section for questions, issues, PRs, anything people want to bring up. Brian, I imagine you would like to discuss the process scanning in the Osquery Yara table. PR?
Yes. So basically, I just knew that this office hours is a time for contributors to advocate and bring up their PRs. I know it's difficult to get active conversation going in comments and stuff like that. So just wanted to find out what the status was on, because I did all of the feedback and testing and formatting and everything's passing now. So if there's anything else that is a outstanding issue, I would like to know so I can address it. But other than that, I just wanted to bring it up and make you guys aware.
You mentioned that your coworker had some good comments about risks there.
Yes.
Does your coworker like the current version?
Yeah, well, so we had a similar issue with our Elastic endpoint in that there is the potential when you're using the SEDebug privilege for privilege squashing if you have multiple threads that both use it at the same time. So I addressed that with reference counting so that basically the guard that enables the privilege is reference counted, so that if any other thread enables the privilege and the first thread dies, the reference count will still be there, the privilege will stay. It won't be until the last holder of the privilege goes out of scope, and then it will return back. So I think I documented that pretty good. But
it makes sense. Honestly, it all feels very fragile.
Okay.
It might be what it is, just
the original implementation that I thought was definitely fragile because it wasn't using RAII and it wasn't scoped. I updated it, but then the scoped version that I added did not do reference counting, and that's when I said my coworker pointed that out, like that's potentially bad. So I went back and addressed that. Did have, obviously, not obviously, but discussed that portion with Claude Code just to get some ideas on, how is this generally addressed in the wild, and this seemed to be the best answer.
Yeah, sorry, I'm skimming the code right now.
It definitely makes sense to me, both the concern and the fix. I haven't fully grokked the code there, but I think it sounds like a reasonable approach.
Okay. Yeah, and then unfortunately, I believe it's necessary, obviously, for Windows because it allows you to scan the memory of other processes, which is what this PR does. And additionally, that my next PR, the Open Handles PR, uses that needs to use that as well in order to enumerate the handles for all of the processes on the system. But that's, I guess, for a later time after this Yara one gets worked out.
And that that is the same privilege that's needed?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and I saw that you'd mentioned for that one you wanted to get this one merged and then kind of rebase because you wanted to make use of the token privileges changes.
Yes.
So this this is effectively elevating permission.
It adds the permission to the process, the SE-debug permission, which allows a process to read the process memory of other processes. Otherwise, it won't be able to do so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this also has the effect of effectively elevating permissions for all other threads that are running.
I believe so, because it is process scoped. Yes.
Yeah. Which honestly doesn't sound that bad. I just want to say it out loud, right? Like Osquery doesn't really have very many threads. And I can't imagine, like, any time where we are trying to read the memory of another process, we probably don't want to fail. So I mean, I don't know that there's a problem that it might accidentally elevate other threads too, but I sort of kind of just want to say that.
Yeah, I tried to address that concern by scoping it with, the RAII. It will restore the privilege once it's done using it temporarily. And it's also probably worth noting that it's fairly common practice in security software to use this privilege. It's not an unknown or obscure thing. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Seth, I see you've been doing a lot of the review on this one. Do you want to kind of take it to the finish, or do you want me to get some eyes on it as well, or further than what I'm doing right now?
I took an early pass a while ago because it looked pretty reasonable before. I feel like I threw some nitpicks out and kind of noticed the lack of guard there. And I don't know that I'm the right person to debug the way we're doing the privileges on Windows. So I can take a look at it. I can try and take a look at this. But if you've got sort of Windows people who are more opinionated or deeper knowledge here, I'm kind of definitely beyond my.
Yeah, and if you have anybody that you'd like me to reach out to discuss it with, feel free to let me know. This is kind of part of my job right now, is proctoring this and getting it worked out.
I don't know, you got Windows people?
I mean, we do, yes, but
Well, Seth, maybe both you and I can take a look. And I think we can get this worked out. I see. Are you able to take a look this week? I could.
Yeah, I can probably look today. I mean, I think the bits other than the privilege part look pretty clean to me. I'll try and look a little bit more carefully, but
yeah, it looks, besides the privileges, it looks pretty straightforward to me as well.
And I mean, I feel like if we squint a bit, we can kind of read the privilege code as, like, I don't really know the deep Windows internals, but probably fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think my biggest concern would be just sort of reading to make sure that, like, the RAII patterns and the locking is all handled appropriately, so that the reset is happening appropriately. I mean, I would take a look at as well at, like, improving my understanding of what these privileges are and, like, the system calls related to setting those. But I think that probably my biggest priority here would be just making sure that the RAII stuff seems to be, like, logically correct.
Yeah. Okay.
thanks.
And there are a handful of other PRs that I think need some review, and I'm imagining we're still probably a few weeks out before tagging a release.
I think so, because this one just hit stable, so, like, we could do one in April if we want. Yeah. I don't know. Brian, do we have any questions about your other PR, or is this not even worth thinking about?
So the other one is kind of a beast, and so I definitely would like for somebody to take a look at it and tell me if it's just too much. But we had this. We talked about it at the last open hours or office hours that me and Ben attended. Ben wrote this code, but I refactored it into more modern C++ and added caching and performance enhancements to it, because it does, it has the potential to enumerate 100,000 plus handles that are open on a Windows system. And so I think the module itself is over 1,000 lines, which is pretty big compared to everything else that I've seen in Osquery, but it's all pretty self-contained. And a lot of those lines are comments and comments and comments to help ease the the concerns. So, but ultimately, I think what we would want, what we would like is at the very least a kind of a go ahead that we think we can work with this, and if not, then we would have to go and work on it in our extension, which is written using the Go bindings. So we would. It's a little more difficult to get that kind of low level Windows stuff from within Go. But if it turns out that you got to look at it and say there's no chance that we'll ever merge this, it would be good to know that sooner than later.
So this is pulling open file handles.
Yes. Yeah. So all the processes. I don't know all the technical details of it, but all the processes on Windows have open handles to many different things, mutexes and files and things like that. This enumerates all of it. It's basically does exactly what sysinternals handles does, and it's useful for forensic purposes and investigating on applications.
Do we have the equivalent on Linux? Because this is very similar to LSOF effectively, but I don't think we have anything like that on Linux. And
process open files.
Oh yeah, okay. Thank you.
I mean, to me, given that, it totally makes sense. I would think that we want it. If I remember, the process open files on Linux just generates all the open files, regardless. So this seems like probably better optimized, and maybe there's more typically handles open on Windows than on Linux, and that makes it prohibitive for generating all of them. But I'm generally think it's probably a good idea to make it harder for people to do the really expensive thing. Then they can just join to the processes or select for the processes they actually want, which is what you've implemented here. I know I took that first pass look at it and gave you some feedback about
specs.
Yeah, I think that the default, you'd set a default to log the handles for the Osquery process, and that hadn't seemed that
useful.
Yeah, that's useful to me. But I think that to me it definitely seems like the kind of thing that we want. It is extra hard to review right now because I see it's got all the Yara changes in it as well.
Yeah, which is why I put it off as a draft for now.
Does it make sense to try and put this into the existing process open files table? Or is this too different?
It's not just open files, and I guess I would probably need to talk to Ben on that one and get him to weigh in on this PR, because I know that there's a lot of different handle types that are not file, like semaphore and process and a couple other different things too. So I don't know that it tracks specific, directly to open files.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at what we have right now, now that Zach has reminded me how we named these tables, right? We have process open files, we have process open pipes, we have process open sockets, and open sockets actually does cover Windows. And I sort of appreciate that handles is a superset, but I wonder, like, should we try and grow one of these? Should we just be like, nope, it's just going to be another platform variation? Because there's a bit where, like, the cognitive load of sort of knowing that, well, it's process open files on Linux, and then it's handles on Windows, which is a superset of open files and open pipes.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
I don't know enough to know. I think that's saying I'm broadly supportive, even if we end up saying no, it should just be handles as a superset. But it might be worth understanding. Does it fit in any of the existing tables, or if handles is too big, is it worth adding like the subset of open files in, and maybe still exposing handles as a separate? So I don't know, but I'm sort of like, how is it easier to work with for people? Does that make sense?
makes sense to me, and I can look at the existing tables and see what kind of overlap there is, and then maybe take that back to Ben, who could potentially give me a reason why that is not a direct translation. But if it is, yeah, maybe we can work some of it into the other tables, and get what we need from it.
Yeah, I don't want to force that path if it's really awkward and doesn't make sense.
I will say though too that from a forensic analysis and cybersecurity perspective, Windows handles is a really well-known concept, and it's not something that is weird or obscure for people, and they wouldn't understand what it was. So
I'd buy that too. But yeah, it sounds like we need to get.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth noting, I think, that like it goes back to 2018. Scott Lundgren opened an issue suggesting a table for Windows open handles. So yeah, I agree with Steph's sentiment that we should make sure that we're like keeping the schema simple where possible. But I think, Steph, you already said it. Let's consider it. But if the answer is it should be a separate table, like that seems like a acceptable answer.
Yeah,
exactly. I can take that as homework and update that PR with some commentary. Again, like I said, I won't make it open for review until the R1 gets merged anyway. So,
Zach, if you found some ancient issue, you could tag it as fixed by this PR too.
Yeah, let's associate them.
Okay. Brian, any other questions?
No, nothing for me. Thank you. It was nice seeing you guys.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's again, it's a few weeks until at least a few weeks till we're tagging the release, but it's certainly my intention to make sure that we get both of these in and give you time to turn around any edits that are necessary.
Yeah, and definitely understand if the open handles one doesn't make it into the next one because of complexity review or whatever.
No, I think we should. I don't think there's any reason why it shouldn't. I think we really should. We should not let it take that long, in my opinion.
Okay.
I mean, we control when we make our releases, so unless there's a real compelling reason,
roughly it would be like we do control when we make the releases. We kind of look at like what PRs are open, when's it time to ship some new features. When I look at what PRs are open, I'm like, this might be the last one to merge before we cut the release. But like, it's my intention that this goes in the release.
Yeah, I think we should get Brian's in.
Yeah. One thing that would help is I have noticed that your PRs sometimes are failing the check code style CI jobs. So then we're not seeing the rest of the CI results to even know whether the rest of the build and tests are passing, and that would be helpful.
Yeah, so maybe I'm doing it wrong, but I was following the building guide, the building Osquery guide, that is the documentation, and it basically tells you to run the CMake build with the format check and target, and the target or format target as well. And I do that, and it modifies the files, but for some reason, it seems to slip through that it doesn't pass.
One thing
sorry, go ahead.
One thing that I know is kind of weird is the format commands only work for get staged things. So if you're using AI and it's already committed something, it won't. It's like awkward.
That is an issue. That's something that like we should probably fix. But I've noticed that before as well. Like if you've already committed your changes, it doesn't catch them. That kind of thing. Yeah, that's annoying for sure.
The other thing that
I've had to reset files that I've committed in order to make sure that they do get hit by the formatter. So.
The other thing that I've been fighting with a little bit on the formatter, I remember where I said this, is the formatter is effectively just calling clang format, except when I call clang format to just reformat an entire file, it uses different rules. And some of this appears to be like variation in like the Clang versions, and it all feels sort of horrific to me, and I can't quite untangle it all. But I feel like at some point we should just reformat the entire code base to something consistent and stop with this nonsense.
Yeah, and I think these are things that I'd be interested in looking into after we get some toolchain updates in, especially because that will change the Clang
100%
like format versions, and that might precipitate Clang format wanting to do different things, which I guess we can evaluate whether we want to make changes or not in that case.
Yeah, I was kind of also holding on, like, when you get the tool chain in, we should sort of settle on that, and we should kind of just, my memory is we also we set it up this way so that people didn't have to reformat a lot of things at once, and I feel like we should probably just rip that Band-Aid off right now.
Potentially, yeah. I also don't know how long Clang format takes to run on the entire code base.
Well, we can only check the files that are in your PR, but we could check the files and not the sub
not just what's staged.
And not just the tiny
section.
I
see, and check the entire files, not just the portions that have been modified. Yeah, these sort of things seem reasonable to me. But yeah, sorry that's annoying right now, Brian. Sometimes the thing to do is to just like apply the diffs that are generated in the CI run, and then recommit, and then just that check does run like pretty not instantly, but immediately. Like it should run within a minute. So after you push, you can just take a look. Did that check pass, and is it letting the rest of the CI run? The rest of the CI would take 45 minutes or something. But yeah, annoying. I know. Sorry.
Is the CI and formatting run automatically? Because I noticed the first time that I put in that, at least the RScan PR, I think it ran on its own. But then when I made an update, it seemed like it needed a maintainer approval or something like that to kick it off again.
So before your first PR is merged, every commit needs a maintainer approval, but we merged at least one PR from you in the past. So I believe that now CI is going to run automatically on every push that you make.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. And that restriction that I just mentioned, by the way, is a GitHub default restriction that we can't even turn off, if I remember correctly. Something that GitHub added a few years ago. Anytime someone's a first committer to a repository, they have to have manual approval for their workflow runs.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, thank you, Brian. This is like, great, thorough work, and we are, obviously it's complex work, and so it's not easy, no matter what, and we're not making it especially easy for you. So I appreciate you putting in the time to get through the process, and we will get these things done for you.
Yeah, no worries. I just don't want to be a pester too much either, so that's why. But from Elastic's perspective, we need have clients that are using Osquery through our platform, and they have a lot of requirements, and it's, I guess, just generally for Elastic as an open source company, if we can contribute to the Osquery project as opposed to just enhancing our own extension over and over, then that's better. So yeah, I have a lot of time allocated to working through this process with you guys, and that's why I said I don't hope to not be pestering, because I know that this is not a all day every day thing for all of you. So
it's such an interesting tension, right? Of like I can't speak to your requirements, but I think many of us would like to do more in Osquery, but it's this balance of well, it's a small fraction of my job. And then how do you line up my small fraction and Zach's small fraction and your small fraction? So it's interesting. But yes.
I mean, it is great. It's great. It's always inspiring for me to hear, both that employers are willing to prioritize that, but also I know that people, put in their own personal time, or even just sort of go out on a limb to ask employers or to make it part of their job to do this work. So, that goes to everyone. That goes to everyone here in the call, because I know we all manage some balance of that, and just appreciation to all of you for that.
Well, speaking of which, Zach, how's your tool chain?
Say it again.
How's your tool chain?
The tool chain is, I think, ready to go. The updates that we discussed last 2 weeks ago at the last meeting, I implemented some of them. One, there was the discussion about zlib, I think it was, and a question of why do we have zlib coming in here multiple times? Stefan, I'm not sure if you saw my commentary about that, but ultimately my recommendation is we should go ahead with that unless there's a real specific reason why we need to change it, because I just wasn't able to make it work otherwise.
Yeah, I recall that. I think it's generally fine. Yeah.
So I guess maybe someone just needs to hit the approve button. I don't know if there's more thorough review, but my proposal would be, if someone approves it, I'll merge it, I'll cut a release, I will put in a PR to Osquery to update the toolchain version, and then I will start testing those builds on various Linux distros, just like I did with the last toolchain update. But this is a way bigger update, so I think more likely to break things.
I'm happy to review, but I'll mostly only give it a cursory review. Last time you wanted a real review and we're hoping for Stefano, but if you will settle for a cursory review, I'm happy to provide one.
My absolute top preference would be Stefano for sure, but if Stefano doesn't have capacity, I'd rather just get things moving.
Yeah, I'm a bit short on capacity, so I wanted to ask, is the reason why we aren't doing the test before we decide that we want to release the toolchain or, I mean, you can already get a built version of the toolchain already. Can't we see if that works as we expect on Osquery?
That's true. Okay, so what I can tell you is I have already tested that the toolchain builds Osquery.
Yeah.
That I've already tested, and I've tested that Osquery runs on like a limited set of, I think just on whatever the machine was that built it. I haven't tested it across a bunch of them. I think partly my hesitation was it's all trickier to plumb up everything together to do this testing, but I could, I could without doing the release. Now, but now on the other hand, I could take that binary that I generated with that current tool chain and run it through that testing process. And so if we want to see that before merging this PR, I can do that.
Yeah, if we can, I think it would be, remove some general doubts. The only other thing I spotted, so I think it stayed, even though you're not building any the libBPF and other libraries anymore there, you have some logic, which I think it might still make sense, but to correct the PKG config that is generated by the whole, like by the build of this toolchain, which is referring probably to some absolute value, absolute paths that do not exist anymore when you take the zip and unzip the toolchain on your own machine. So there are some corrections there. I do recall, and sorry if I did not go and look what I did, but I recall I had to do something similar also on a CMake file. Basically, when you had a project trying to use one of the LLVM libraries in the toolchain, it would return an incorrect path or one of those absolute paths that was created while the toolchain is being built. So basically what I'm saying, I think there might need to be an additional correction of those CMake files, not only the PKG config, but I haven't yet looked at the artifact or the toolchain artifact to see how they look. I only recall I had to do that. Let me.
Yeah, it is certainly was my experience that there are some changes needed to the CMake files and the build process in association with this. My PR that's still a draft in the Osquery repo that's called Experiment with BPF Build is includes some of those changes, but it's a bit of a monster because it's sort of pulling out the entirety of the eBPF pub stuff and replacing it with new libBPF stuff.
So maybe I did not. So are you referring to changes to CMake logic on the libraries themselves, like libBPF, etc., or on the toolchain?
I'm referring to once the toolchain is built, changes that need to be made to building the third-party libraries.
Oh, I see. No, yeah,
you're referring to something else. It sounds like.
Yes, because the toolchain itself provides the LLVM libraries. And if you need those, it also when you the toolchain zip includes CMake files that are made to discover those libraries. However, sorry, I was trying to find where I did that modification. However, I recall that one of those CMakes also, like the PKG config file, also has a path that needs to be adjusted. Oh, okay, I did finally found, sorry, the commit. I think, yeah, this was. Oh, and it was actually related to zlib too. Interesting.
Okay, interesting. And this was necessary
So this was necessary, at least it was necessary previously when we were building the eBPF pub that was using the LLVM libraries that were present in the toolchain, like they were exposed in the toolchain. And that LLVM config.cmake file is used in the discovery of those libraries when we were bringing them in Osquery. And the path they have, the path that is present in that file is hard-coded because it's part of the final artifact of the toolchain, and it was also an absolute path that was an artifact of where the toolchain was built. And so that needed change to be relative because we are unzipping you can unzip the toolchain where you want on the system, and definitely the path won't, like absolute path won't work.
Yeah. So I guess my question would be like, if the build seems to be working once the appropriate changes are made in Osquery, not including like a change in relation to like finding this zlib route, does that perhaps mean that we don't need this kind of patch anymore?
Well, it's maybe that, I'm not sure. It's maybe that we are not using right now the LLVM libraries. I guess. I mean, it's a problem. I guess if you want, it's a problem we can solve later. But I was just wondering if the issue was still there, because again, if we want to use the like the project wants to use the LLVM library,
yeah,
heads up if you really want. Yeah.
I guess I suppose I can look at this file and the generated toolchain, see if it's got an absolute path, and if it does, then I can copy this change over, and then we'll have it fixed for the future if we start using that stuff again. So maybe that's just fine. Like I can just do that. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I'll just do that.
But yeah,
Okay, so
I mean, overall, I can say I don't see anything like majorly wrong. I think we can do the test, and yeah, if there is an issue, we can do another point release. But yeah, in general, I think it's good.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. So I'll look into this thing in particular, the this LLVM config.cmake, and then I will do some testing of the final generated Osquery binaries across various distros, and then report, and we'll get it merged and tag the release at that point. Does that sound good?
I want to poke at that needing to do manual testing. Do we think our CI covers enough, the Osquery CI, or do we think we need more?
I don't think we do. I mean, Stefano, correct me if I'm wrong, but the CI is not testing a wide enough variety of kernel versions. And even if we try to use Docker and CI, we still have the same kernel version.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I actually built some Vagrant scripting or config that I can use on my Mac to run across like a bunch of different versions and architectures of a bunch of different distros, which I'll PR up to the Osquery repo as well. That was the best way I was able to find to run across a bunch of different things. But we need the full VM so that we're running across the actual different kernels.
Okay, that makes sense. I think one of the things that's always been very hard for me to think about is, as we talk about the third-party libraries, it's very hard to actually validate the data that we get back across OSs, across versions, matches the sort of data on disk, data in the OS. So it always feels very hard, and there's some amount of
we're not validating, really.
And I don't know how we can, right? Like all we can really do is
validating is like, does does the binary exec,
Yeah.
and
I mean,
can it run
you
a basic
could, but
query?
it's expensive and complicated. Like you could have snapshot VMs with very specific setups, but then you need self-hosted runners to deploy those VMs.
I don't
and
think it works.
whole-
Like I've thought about how to do this for Collide, and it's the best I can come up with is like if you could use Puppet or Hammer Spoon or any of the kind of configuration things to be like, okay, I've configured this machine in this broken state or in this given state. Can I pull this out of a table? But like our tables cover such a broad range of things. It's just
Well, no, I mean, it's possible in the sense, technically possible, but not feasible time-wise.
I'm not even sure it's technically possible with some of the data we pull out of Mac.
It's certainly challenging. I think at the least it's challenging, and it would be wildly time consuming. But yeah, I mean it is it is a challenge for the project, I think. But hopefully, or potentially this sort of thing that I've done with Vagrant could lead to some inspiration if folks want to do more thorough testing across different OSs. I'm glad we have what we call our table tests right now that tend to validate, like, does the table at least generate and return results? But it doesn't even, of course, as we know, do that across all the tables, because there's a lot of tables where it's like on CI, there's going to be no rows generated. So
yeah, events also are not there, basically.
It is a
Event
hard
table.
problem. And the OSs keep changing too. If they stopped writing code, it'd be fine.
yeah, so there's a lot of potential room for growth there, but it's like expensive investment, I think. Very expensive, very slow going.
It's the fragility that worries me.
Yeah.
If it was just a one-time cost, you could chip away at it or like devote time to it. But it's the bit where I'm like, it's gonna break in 2 weeks.
I think that definitely could be the case.
Yeah, Apple's gonna release a thing, and then you'll be like, well, it doesn't work anymore. So
Okay, well, I think I've got what I need to move forward on the tool chain. So thanks y'all for that.
okay. Well, thank you all. Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Stefano. Nice to see your avatar, Alessandro, and nice to meet you, Brian. Anything else people want to talk about? If not, I think we're probably good for today.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.